Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about some of the better bets against the spread in college basketball for Saturday, January 14, 2017. I'm really hoping that Ryder's able to come through in this particular matchup, and then we'll go 4-0 against the spread on the games that we took in yesterday's video with Central Michigan, Yale, Detroit, and Ryder, but it's pretty close in that one, so we'll see how that one shakes out here. But anyways, again, if you're looking for more of this kind of pick content in the future, you can click that subscribe button, and if you can go ahead and click the like button and thumbs up this video, it's greatly appreciated and really helps us out. And if you're looking for more pick content beyond just what we talk about in this video and in other sports, you can head on over to our main site, stumpthespread.com, by clicking this logo here in the top right hand corner of the video if you're on desktop, and we'll also be linking Stump the Spread in the video description as well. And when you head over there, you can get our daily free play. It's going to be in college basketball, another 1-unit play for tomorrow. And you can also upgrade to our premium membership to get all of our top confidence 5-unit bets across all major American sports. Right now, that would be the NFL, the NBA, college basketball, as well as the NHL. All right, guys, so a lot of action on the board today. Really excited for a number of these matchups. I got about 15 games that I'm going to be covering in this particular video. It's going to be a pretty lengthy video. If you're interested in what games I'm going to be discussing, I'll put those in the video description as well, and I'll put them in order of when I talk about them. All right, so first matchup that I want to talk about here is going to be Dayton versus Duquesne. Dayton doesn't have a lot of room for error in the A10 this season if they want to make it to the NCAA tournament as an at-large. In their last outing, the Flyers fell to UMass by a final of 55-67 on the road, and that's the kind of losses that Dayton really can't be taking all that often here in the A10 to keep their RPI and their resume up in a position where they're hoping to make the NCAA tournament. This is a group that has a lot of veteran players. They stand 12-4 overall, 3-1 in conference. The Flyers try to build off of their defense. They're in 46th in the nation in points allowed compared to 144th in scoring average. Veteran guard Charles Cook leads the team, averaging about 18 points per game. And then we have the Houghton team here in Duquesne, who's not a complete pushover here in the A10, standing 9-8 overall and 2-2 in conference. Their only win of note really this year was on the road against Pittsburgh, but that's a pretty quality win for this group. In their last outing, the Dukes came through at home against the worst team in the conference, beating St. Louis by a final of 73-66. Duquesne has shown they compete with some of the tougher teams they face this season. Even in conference play, Duquesne has pushed the likes of LaSalle and VCU in competitive defeats. The Dukes don't excel in any one category, really ranking about 200th in the nation in scoring and total defense. Duquesne spreads the ball around with an impressive 6 players averaging between 8 and 13 points per game. Really shows you that this lineup has a lot of scoring threats, and they don't just kind of focus on one guy to get all the points. Dayton is heading into the second leg of a back-to-back road trip, and the Flyers came up short in their first leg, being upset by UMass. This will be a similar challenge for the Flyers, and Vegas is really giving the squad a lot of respect with this sizable spread going on the road. We do like the home team to keep things competitive as Duquesne goes on to cover this rather sizable spread here at home. All right, next game I want to talk about is going to be Connecticut versus Georgetown. The UConn Huskies came through for us the other day at home, beating back Temple by a final of 73-59. The Huskies have been one of the bigger disappointments in college basketball this season, but that doesn't mean this group can't still be competitive against solid competition when they're playing up to their talent level. UConn is coming off back-to-back double-figure wins in conference against, again, in their last outing against Temple, and then prior to that against UCF. UConn has shown that they compete on the road as well, winning at LMU and nearly upsetting Ohio State and Columbus back during the non-conference. Jalen Adams leads this offense, averaging 15.2 points and 6.2 assists per game. The home team, Georgetown, has shown flashes of solid play this season, but the Hoyas have also been frustratingly inconsistent, standing 9-8 overall and just 1-4 in the Big East. Georgetown has even been susceptible to defeats on their home court, as they're just 6-4 at home this season. The Hoyas were able to snap out of their 4-game losing streak in their last outing as they took down St. John's at home by a final of 83-55. The Hoyas have favored playing at a faster pace this year, as they said, 87th in the nation in scoring average, and this unit has been led by Rodney Pryor, who's averaging just over 18 points per game. This should be a fun matchup between two teams that used to have their fair share of battles over in the old Big East before UConn moved over into the American. UConn is building some momentum coming off 2 quality wins at home, and we like for the Huskies to continue to fight today as they push the Hoyas and cover this moderate size spread here on the road. Connecticut getting that 7 to 7.5 points right now, We do feel like they're the better value bet in this particular matchup. Moving on to a game in the Big Ten, we got Minnesota here against Penn State. Minnesota has performed much better than anyone was expecting coming into the year, but the Gophers didn't look great in their last outing on the road, losing to Michigan by a final of 47-65. Minnesota is still putting together a respectable resume, standing 15-3 overall and 3-2 in the Big Ten. But the Gophers will be knocked some on Selection Sunday with the home-heavy non-conference slate that they went against. Minnesota has shown they can come through on the road with recent road wins against Purdue and Northwestern in Big Ten play. The Gophers have also shown strengths on both sides of the ball, ranking 69th in the nation in total defense and 136 in scoring average. Penn State has some very intriguing young talent, and making a push to the NIT would be a step in the right direction for this developing squad this season. Penn State is better than their 10-7 overall might suggest, as the Nittany Lions can compete with pretty much anyone in the Big Ten when they're playing up to their ceiling. Penn State has looked they looked really good in their last outing at the Palestra, beating Michigan State by a final of 72-63. The Nittany Lions have shown they compete with tougher opponents they've faced this season, and this will be another great test for this group on their home court. Penn State has an impressive 5 players averaging a double-figure scoring, with veteran guard Shep Garner leading the way, averaging 12.8 points per game. And this is another one of those offenses that really spreads the ball around to a number of different guys that can put it in the hoop. Minnesota didn't look great in their last outing on the road against Michigan State, and that's the second defeat that the Golden Gophers have taken to the Spartans this season. This is the same MSU squad that had their issues with Penn State and what was a great resume-building win for the Nittany Lions. In what should be a competitive matchup, we do like the home team to come through in this one as they go on to cover the spread. All right, guys, moving on to Richmond against St. Joe's, matchup that we have over in the A10. Let's see here. All right, so the Richmond Spiders have been overlooked in the A10, but this group now sits atop the league, standing 10-6 overall, as well as 4-0 in conference play. Richmond picked up an impressive win on the road in their last outing, upsetting George Washington by a final of 77-70. Richmond has been proving themselves on the road, also picking up recent road wins against the likes of Davidson and James Madison. The Spiders have been showing improvements on the offensive end, and this group shares the ball well, ranking 37th in the nation in assists. Star forward TJ Klein has led the attack, averaging about 18 points per game. And then the home team here, we got the St. Joe's Hawks, and they have shown that they aren't the same caliber of team without their leading scorer, Shavar Newkirk. And that's to be expected when losing over 20 points per game of production that Newkirk was bringing to the table for the Hawks. In their last outing, St. Joe's came up short at home, losing to George Mason by a final of 67-75. In their first game without Newkirk in the lineup, the Hawks fell to Rhode Island on the road by a final of 58-88, and what was a really bad 30-point loss for them. The Hawks have lost a key component to their offensive firepower, and this group now ranks just 239th in the nation in scoring average, and that number is likely to go even lower now that Newkirk is not in the lineup. Richmond has gotten off to a strong start in A10 play, and the Spiders have shown they can get the job done on the road with some great recent upset wins at George Washington and Davidson. St. Joe's hasn't been the same threat without their leading scorer, and as a result, we like the Spiders to come through in this afternoon game as they go on to cover this spread here in what should be a game that Richmond should be able to win based on what we've been seeing out of them lately. All right, moving on down here, the next game we want to talk about is going to be a matchup over in Conference USA between Marshall and UAB. Marshall played their worst game of the year in their last outing on the road against MTSU, and what really was impressive about that is the Herd were still almost able to cover the spread in that matchup, but they did lose by a final of 57-69. Marshall is the most dangerous offensive team in CUSA, and this group currently ranks 9th in the nation in scoring average, putting up 88.1 points per contest. The Thundering Herd remain a serious threat to win the conference regular season title, as this group stands 11-7 overall and 4-1 in league play. Marshall has picked up recent road wins in conference against FIU and FAU in blowout fashion. Marshall has a number of strong offensive options, and John Elmore has led the attack, averaging just over 20 points per game. UAB has been one of the more disappointing teams in the conference throughout the regular season, but the Blazers have at least shown better in conference play, now standing 10-7 overall and 3-1 in league play. UAB is playing with more confidence, winning 3 straight, and the Blazers looked great in their last outing, getting past Western Kentucky by 18 points in that win. With that said, offensive consistency has been an issue with UAB, as the Blazers rank 228th in the nation in scoring average, and this unit hasn't had any elite scoring options to go to on a consistent basis. UAB has shown a lot of depth, but not a lot of consistent scoring options to go to. Right now it's been William Lee, who's averaging 12.4 points per game, who leads this unit. Marshall was clearly frustrated with how they were playing, as well as mixed in with some poor calls in their last outing against MTSU, and that's all the more motivation for this group to get back on track today against the Blazers. UAB has been better as of late, but the home team will likely have their hands full in this one. We do like Marshall to bounce back as they keep things competitive on their way to covering this spread here, and what should be a pretty fun matchup to watch. All right, guys, moving on to another Big Ten matchup. We have Nebraska versus Michigan. The Nebraska Cornhuskers have been one of the surprise teams in Big Ten play thus far, as this group now stands 9-7 overall, as well as 3-1 in conference. What has really surprised many is Nebraska was what they've been able to do on the road, beating both Maryland and Indiana in competitive contests in tough road atmospheres in conference play. The Huskers came up just short in their last outing, however, losing to Northwestern at home by a final of 66-74 to snap Nebraska's 4-game winning streak. Nebraska knew they were going to be a work in progress this season, with a number of underclassmen taking on larger roles, but the future does look bright for this squad if they stay together and continue to improve. The Huskers have been led by veteran guard with Ty Webster, who's averaging 17.7 points per game. The home team, this is a veteran Michigan squad that has been a disappointment in terms of their consistency, standing 11-6 overall and just 1-3 in conference. Michigan showed back during the non-conference that they can compete with quality opposition, but the Wolverines have been tailing off as they've been heading into conference play here. Michigan was throttled in their last outing on the road against Illinois, losing to the Illini by a final of 69-85. In their last home game, the Wolverines were upset, losing to a young Maryland squad by a final of 70-77. The Wolverines like to play at a slower pace in the half court, and this veteran group has been led by Zach Irving, who's averaging about 14 points per game. Michigan continues to get a lot of respect from Vegas, despite not putting up very compelling results since the start of Big Ten play. Nebraska has been proving themselves on the road in conference, and this is another chance for the Huskers to play spoiler. We do like the Huskers getting the considerable amount of points here as the better bet in this particular matchup, just based on what we've been seeing out of these teams in Big Ten play thus far. All right, guys, moving into an ACC game, we got Notre Dame versus Virginia Tech. Notre Dame has far surpassed expectations this season, standing 15-2 overall and 4-0 in the ACC, which currently puts the Irish atop the conference standings. Notre Dame was able to come through in their last outing as they beat Miami on the road by a final of 67-62. All of Notre Dame's conference wins have been in close competitive matchups, and this group is really getting good at coming through in the clutch in these close conference games. The Irish have clear weaknesses, though, down low and on the boards, but a high offensive efficiency has made the difference for Notre Dame so far this season. Notre Dame ranks an impressive 40th in the nation in scoring, as well as 16th in assists against a very tough schedule. And then the home team, we got Virginia Tech. They picked up a much-needed win in their last outing, getting past Syracuse by a final of 83-73. Tech was coming off back-to-back losses on the road in conference against NC State and Florida State, and if the Hokies are going to be a factor in the league, then they need to continue to take care of business at home like they've been doing. Their other ACC home win coming against Duke. Virginia Tech now stands 13-3 overall and 2-2 in league play. The Hokies play a hectic brand of basketball, and Tech has been very tough to beat on their home court the past couple of seasons. This group can also put up some strong offensive numbers, ranking 25th in the nation in scoring average. Notre Dame is going back-to-back on the road against strong opposition. It'll be interesting to see what the Irish have left in the tank here on the road against a Tech squad that can play at a pretty hectic pace. Tech has defended their home court well this season, and the Hokies are 2-0 in conference thus far. We like Virginia Tech to come through again today at home as they go on to cover this spread against the Irish. All right, guys, the next game that I want to talk about is going to be Wright State versus Milwaukee. This is a matchup over in the Horizon. Wright State, the Raiders were throttled in their last outing on the road, losing to Green Bay by a final of 61-78, and the Raiders have another tricky road test today against the Panthers. Wright State hasn't been all that impressive in conference play thus far, as the Raiders now stand 11-7 overall and 2-3 in league play. The Raiders have lost their last two outings, including a less than ideal 75-80 loss at home against Youngstown State. Wright State doesn't have any glaring strengths or weaknesses, ranking about 163rd in the nation in scoring and 141st in total defense. The Raiders have been led by guard Mark Allstark, who's averaging about 17.8 points per game. Then we have the home team, the Milwaukee Panthers, who did a good job of testing themselves throughout the non-conference, and that's prepped this group well for action on the horizon. Milwaukee is coming off one of their better results in recent memory, getting past Northern Kentucky at home by a final of 68 to 58. Milwaukee had been on a 3-game losing streak on the road to open league play, but now the Panthers are getting a chance to get back on track at home. Home court means a lot in this league, and it'll be interesting to see if the Panthers are capable of turning in some more wins as they continue to play more of a home schedule going forward after opening league play with 3 straight games on the road. Milwaukee has been a work in progress on the offensive end, and this unit's led by Brock Stoll, who's averaging 12.4 points per game. Milwaukee was able to come through as dogs in their last outing at home against a Northern Kentucky squad that we value more than this Wright State group. Wright State is on the second leg of a back-to-back road trip, much like Northern Kentucky was in their last outing against Milwaukee. And as a result, we do like Milwaukee to come through again today at home as they go on to cover the spread against Wright State in what's currently set as a pick'em. All right, and now we're going to be moving over to the Big 12, and it's going to be a matchup between, let's see if we can find it here. Here it is, Baylor versus Kansas State. All right, we weren't totally sold on this Baylor squad being the best team in the nation, and the Bears have started to come back down to earth as of late, barely getting past Iowa State and Oklahoma State at home, followed by a rough 68-89 loss on the road against West Virginia in their last outing. To be fair to Baylor, they've been way better than anyone was projecting them to be this season, especially with losing their 2 best players in the offseason from last year's NCAA tournament team. Baylor still stands 15-1 overall with elite resume wins littered throughout their results. Baylor plays off of their tough D as the Bears rank 9th in the nation in total defense compared to 113th in scoring average. And then we have Kansas State. It's another Big 10 squad Big 12 squad that's been better than most were expecting coming into the year. Wildcats stand 13-3 overall as well as 2-2 in conference. K-State will be hurt by their weaker non-conference strength of schedule, but the Wildcats have looked really strong in Big 12 play, coming off recent 2 and 1 point losses on the road against teams like Kansas and Texas Tech. Even though they were defeats, the fact that Kansas State was able to push the likes of those quality opponents right to the end on the road really shows what this unit is capable of. Kansas State is 2-0 at home with their other wins coming against Texas and Oklahoma. K-State also leans on their defense as this group ranks 11th in the nation in points allowed compared to 139th in scoring average. This should be a fun game to watch if you're a fan of strong defensive squads. K-State has been a bit frustrated with their inability to come through on the road in close games thus far in league play, but this group can't dwell on that as they need to defend their home court right now. This game means a lot more to the Wildcats, and we do like K-State to push Baylor as they go on to win and cover the spread, especially with Baylor going back-to-back on the road and coming off of a blowout loss in their last outing. All right, moving on to Texas Arlington against Troy over in the Sun Belt. UT Arlington had their 11-game winning streak snapped the other day as the Mavericks fell on the road to Texas State by a final of 73-81. Things don't get any easier for UTA today as they head out on the road again to play a squad that we value higher than Texas State. UT Arlington has shown that they can get the job done on the road this year, winning at places like Texas and St. Mary's, but all of UTA's defeats have been in true road settings as well. UTA has been solid this season, standing 12-4 overall and 2-1 in conference. The Mavericks put in the effort on both sides of the ball, ranking around 100th in the nation in both scoring and total defense. And then we have the home team, the Troy Trojans, are another group that's played a road-heavy slate and found some success along the way, sitting 9-8 overall and 1-2 in conference. All of Troy's conference games have been on the road thus far, and the Trojans should be happy to get back home, where this group has picked up the bulk of their wins this season. Troy was able to come through for us in their last outing as they beat Georgia State on the road by a final of 80-77. Despite going against a road-heavy slate, Troy has still been one of the better offensive teams in the conference, ranking 48th in the nation in scoring average. The Trojans are also tough to handle down low, ranking 26th in the nation in rebounding. UTA is coming off a less-than-ideal loss on the road against Texas State, and the Mavericks will get another test today going on the road against Troy. The Trojans have opened conference play with all 3 of their games coming on the road, and this group is hungry to start improving their record in league play as they get more of a home-heavy schedule coming up. We do like Troy to push for the win in this one as they go on to cover the spread against the Mavericks in what should be a pretty competitive game. All right, moving back into the Big 12, we have Iowa State versus TCU. The Iowa State Cyclones have been playing well as of late, picking up back-to-back wins in conference against Texas at home, as well as the other day on the road by a final of 96-86 against Oklahoma State. Iowa State hasn't been all that tested on the road this year, playing in just 3 true road games, going 1-2 overall, with defeats coming at Iowa and at Baylor. The Cyclones have been steady this season, standing 11-4 overall and 3-1 in conference. The Cyclones have built themselves up off of a home-heavy slate, and Iowa State has shown strengths on both ends of the court, ranking 34th in the nation in scoring and 56th in total defense. And then the home squad, the TCU Horned Frogs, haven't gone against the toughest slate compared to other Big 12 squads, at least back in the non-conference. But the Horned Frogs still have a decent overall resume, standing 13-3 overall and 2-2 in conference. In their last outing, TCU picked up a needed win, getting past Texas by a final of 64-61 on the road. TCU's 2 conference losses thus far have come in respectable, competitive defeats against the likes of Kansas and West Virginia, who are 2 of the top teams in the Big 12. The Horned Frogs are an unselfish group that plays off of their defense, as TCU ranks 46th in the nation in points allowed. And this group is unselfish as they spread the ball around, ranking 35th in the nation in assists. This is another one of those proving ground games for TCU, as the Horned Frogs really need to take care of business at home if they're going to make a run towards the NCAA tournament. Iowa State is going back-to-back on the road, which is very tough to do in the Big 12, and we do like TCU to push the Cyclones today as they go on to cover this spread in what should be a pretty fun game to watch. Alright, as we get later in the day, we're heading over into the Pac-12, and we have UCLA versus Utah. UCLA has been proving themselves worthy both at home and on the road throughout the regular season, as the Bruins stand 17-1 overall and 14-1 in conference. UCLA's one defeat came on the road against Oregon on a buzzer beater, and outside of that, the Bruins have won all of their conference games by double digits. In their last outing, UCLA put up some great offensive numbers on the road against Colorado, as the Bruins went on to beat the Buffs by a final of 104-89. UCLA has arguably the most dangerous offensive attack in the nation, as they rank 3rd in the country in scoring and 1st in assists. Veteran guard Bryce Alford leads this deadly unit, averaging about 18 points per game. Utah, they've been showing some steady improvement, and now with a healthier roster, the Utes are a threat to compete in the upper tier of the Pac-12. Utah has been looking solid in conference play, now standing 12-4 overall and 3-1 in league action. The Utes dominated action in their last outing at home against a quality USC squad, picking up the win by a final of 86-64. Utah has now won 5 of the last 6 since their surprise loss against San Francisco back during the non-conference. Utah is strong on both sides of the ball, ranking 50th in the nation in scoring as well as 60th in total defense, but part of this is Utah did boost their stats with some easier lower division matchups back during the non-conference, but this is still a quality team led by forward Kyle Kuzma, who leads the offensive attack, averaging 14.6 points per game. UCLA showed us again in their last outing that this team is comfortable lighting up the scoreboard both at home and on the road, but things figure to be a little bit tougher today going into the second leg of a back-to-back on the road. With that said, we do like the confidence and momentum that UCLA is playing with, and we do feel that the Bruins are the better bet against the spread in this matchup, especially with the spread shrinking. It opened at 5, and now it's down to 3, so we do feel like UCLA is going to be the better betting value in this particular matchup. All right, guys, just a couple more games to cover here before we're done, starting with Wichita State versus Illinois State over in the MVC. Wichita State is the clear-cut team to beat in the Missouri Valley Conference this season, but Illinois State is doing their best to challenge the Shockers, staying neck and neck on top of the league standings with the Shockers. Wichita State has been putting together an at-large resume worthy of consideration to the NCAA tournament, but the Shockers don't have much margin for error in MVC play if they want to keep their spot in the big dance. The Shockers stand 15-3 overall and 5-0 in the MVC, with their last win coming at home against Loyola, Illinois by a final of 87-75. Wichita State has been playing off of their strengths on both ends of the court, ranking 24th in the nation in scoring as well as 30th in total defense. Illinois State is the main threat to Wichita State in the MVC, and on the year, the Redbirds stand 13-4 overall as well as an undefeated 5-0 in conference. In their last home contest, Illinois State had a tough time getting past Missouri State, picking up the win in extra time by a final of 74-71 in a game that really could have gone either way. Illinois State played off of their strong defense in their last outing against Southern Illinois on the road, picking up the win by a final of 60-53. Illinois State is one of the best defensive teams in the conference, ranking 24th in the nation in points allowed. but their offense is more of a work in progress, and they tend to slow things down in the half court, ranking 223rd in scoring average. This veteran group has a lot of strong pieces, and they're led by guys like Hawkins, McIntosh, and Lee, who are all averaging over 13 points per game. This is one of the most important games in the MVC this regular season, and a chance for Illinois State to prove themselves against the best. Wichita State has the clear offensive edge against Illinois State, and we feel like that's going to be a significant difference in this one for the Shockers. And as a result, we do like Wichita State to outpace the Redbirds on the scoreboard as they go on to win and cover this rather small spread here on the road. And just one more game that we want to talk about in today's video, and that's another really compelling matchup in the mid-majors between St. Mary's and Gonzaga. I don't even know if you can call these basketball programs mid-majors anymore, but they do play in a mid-major conference. This is another chance for St. Mary's to show they're deserving of their top 25 ranking as the Gales go on the road to face one of the best teams in the nation. St. Mary's was downright deadly in their last outing on the road, beating Portland by a final of 74-33. The Gales have gotten off to a strong start this season, standing 15-1 overall and 5-0 in conference. St. Mary's doesn't mind slowing things down and playing in the half court, as this veteran group ranks an impressive second in the nation in total defense, compared to 174th in scoring. St. Mary's is one of the more cohesive teams in the nation given their veteran experience, and this unit is led by Jock Landale, who's averaging 17.8 points per game. It's almost like we say this every year, but this might be the best all-around Gonzaga squad that we've seen from them. This could very well be the Gonzaga group that makes a run to the Final Four, but first thing that Gonzaga has to do is prove themselves here against the other top squad in their conference. The Bulldogs have put together a solid campaign thus far, standing 16-0 overall and 4-0 in conference, with resume wins coming against the likes of Florida, Iowa State, Arizona, and Tennessee back during the non-conference. In their last outing, Gonzaga came through at home, beating Loyola Marymount by a final of 93-55. The Bulldogs have shown strengths on both ends of the court, ranking 15th in the nation in scoring as well as 32nd in total defense. This is a must-watch game if you're a fan of college basketball, especially at the mid-major level. This veteran St. Mary's squad has the temperament and composure to play in a tough environment such as this, and Gonzaga should have a fight on their hands in this matchup. We do feel like this can be a more competitive game, and as a result, we do like St. Mary's getting the 7.5 points right now. This spread might actually even go up, just given how Gonzaga's been looking as of late, but let's not forget that St. Mary's limited a Portland squad to just 33 points the other day, and that's a Portland team that has some of the better offensive threats in the conference. So really interesting matchup here, and that's pretty much going to do it for the better picks against the spread that we see for Saturday's action. Again, there's just an absurd amount of games to pick from for today, and those were 14 of the better bets that we see against the spread for today's action. Again, if you're looking for more pick content or to get our daily free play, you can head on over to our main site, stumpthespread.com, and you can also upgrade to a premium membership to get all of our top confidence plays across all major American sports. And if you're looking to get more video pick content in the future in college basketball, then you can click that subscribe button, as well as click the thumbs up on the videos. Really appreciated and really helps us out. So thanks guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next college basketball pick video. Thanks. Bye.